Creating vintage-style wood art can be a rewarding and creative process. Here's a step-by-step guide to help you make your own wood vintage art. Materials needed. Wood panel or canvas. Choose a piece of wood, plywood, or a wooden canvas. Sandpaper, various grits, 80, 120, and 220, for smoothing the surface. Wood stain or paint. Select colors that fit the vintage aesthetic, e.g., muted or earthy tones. Paint brushes or rags, for applying stain or paint. Sealant, clear polyurethane or wax for finishing. Stencils or templates, optional for designs or lettering. Tools, jigsaw or scroll saw if cutting shapes, a drill for hanging, and clamps. Steps to create vintage wood art. 1. Choose your design. Inspiration. Look for vintage art styles that inspire you, such as retro signs, botanical prints, or rustic patterns. Sketch. Create a rough sketch of your design on paper or directly on the wood surface. 2. Prepare the wood surface. Sand the wood. Use sandpaper to smooth the surface, starting with a coarse grit and finishing with a fine grit. This helps the stain or paint adhere better. Clean the surface. Wipe away dust with a damp cloth and let it dry. 3. Apply base color. Paint or stain. Apply a base coat of paint or stain. For a vintage look, consider using white or a muted color as your base. Use a brush or rag to apply evenly. Drying time. Allow the base coat to dry completely. 4. Add vintage effects. Distressing. To create a worn look, gently sand edges and surfaces after the base coat has dried. You can also use techniques like dry brushing with a contrasting color to highlight textures. Stencils. If using stencils, position them on the wood and apply paint or stain over them. Remove the stencil carefully for a clean design. 5. Add details. Lettering. Use stencils or hand paint letters to add quotes, names, or dates that enhance the vintage feel. Graphics. Incorporate vintage graphics or motifs, such as florals or geometric patterns. 6. Finish the piece. Sealant. Once all the paint and design work is dry, apply a clear sealant to protect your art. Choose a matte or satin finish for a more vintage look. Dry completely. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for drying times. 7. Prepare for display. Hanging. If your art is meant to be hung, drill holes for mounting or attach a picture hanger to the back. Display. Find a suitable location to showcase your vintage wood art, whether it's on a wall, shelf, or easel. Tips for success. Experiment. Don't be afraid to try different techniques and combinations of stains and paints to achieve the desired vintage effect. Research vintage techniques. Look into techniques used in vintage art styles such as decoupage or patina for added depth. Take your time. Allow each layer to dry fully before moving on to the next to ensure the best results. By following these steps, you'll create beautiful vintage wood art that reflects your personal style and creativity. What types of wood are best for creating vintage art? When creating vintage wood art, the type of wood you choose can significantly impact the final look and feel of your piece. Here are some of the best types of wood for vintage art. 1. Pine. Characteristics. Soft wood that is readily available, lightweight, and easy to work with. Vintage appeal. Its light color and grain patterns can be easily stained or painted, allowing for a rustic, aged look. 2. Cedar. Characteristics. Aromatic wood with a straight grain and reddish hue. Vintage appeal. Naturally resistant to decay, it can develop a beautiful patina over time, enhancing its vintage aesthetic. 3. Maple. Characteristics. Hard and durable with a fine, consistent grain. Vintage appeal. Can be stained to achieve a vintage look and holds paint well for intricate designs. 4. Oak. Characteristics. Strong hardwood with prominent grain patterns. Vintage appeal. Its durability and rich texture make it ideal for traditional vintage designs. Stains can enhance its natural beauty. 5. Birch. Characteristics. Light-colored hardwood with a smooth surface. Vintage appeal. Its fine grain works well for painting and staining, allowing for clean vintage-style art. 6. Poplar. Characteristics. Versatile hardwood that is easy to cut and shape. Vintage appeal. Often used as a base for painted projects due to its smooth surface and ability to take paint well. 7. Reclaimed wood. Characteristics. Wood salvaged from old buildings, barns, or furniture. Vintage appeal. Offers unique character, weathering, and history, making it perfect for authentic vintage art. 8. Mahogany. Characteristics. Dense and durable with a rich, reddish-brown color. Vintage appeal. Its fine grain and natural luster give it an elegant vintage feel, especially in polished or stained finishes. 9. Walnut. Characteristics: dark hardwood with a rich, warm color and striking grain. Vintage appeal: ideal for high-end vintage art, it adds sophistication and depth to any project. 10. Fir. Characteristics: strong, lightweight softwood with a straight grain. Vintage appeal: often used in rustic designs, it can be stained or painted to achieve a vintage look. Tips for choosing wood: consider the finish. Different woods take stains and paints differently. Test finishes on scrap pieces to see how they react. Think about texture. Rougher textures can add to the vintage feel, while smoother finishes might suit more polished designs. Sustainability: whenever possible, opt for sustainably sourced or reclaimed wood to align with eco-friendly practices. By selecting the right type of wood, you can enhance the vintage aesthetic of your art and create pieces that reflect both your style and the timeless appeal of well-crafted woodwork. Thank you for joining me on this creative journey into the world of vintage wood art. I hope you enjoyed the process and feel inspired to craft your own unique pieces. Remember, each artwork tells a story, and by choosing the right wood and techniques, you can capture that timeless vintage charm. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more woodworking tutorials and creative projects. I'd love to hear about your own vintage art creations, so share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Keep exploring your creativity, and don't be afraid to experiment with different styles and techniques. Until next time, happy crafting and let your artistic spirit shine.